Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I'm Terry Whitt-Bailey, and I will be serving as your MC today for the 27th Annual Indiana Black Expo Muncie Chapter Corporate Luncheon. Welcome. This is actually the first year that we've been in the colonnade room where there are no blinds that are pulled. Isn't it lovely to have a bright space to be in, and the sun is shining on us today, and we've got a full house. So we're glad to have you here. We've got a great program in store for you. How many of you are just home for the weekend? People are visiting. Raise your hand and wave to us. Yes, welcome home. Welcome home. We look forward to greeting you and spending time with you this weekend and reminding you of how wonderful this place is. So thank you. Welcome home. We are going to start with our invocation that will be by Dr. Andrew Draper, who is the pastor of Urban Light Community Church, followed by a welcome from the Honorable Mayor Dennis Tyler from the city of Muncie.
Thank you, Dr. Whitt-Bailey. My prayer today draws from the words of Jeremiah and Chronicles and the words of the Apostle Paul. Would you pray with me? O Lord, you have called us to seek the peace and well-being of the city in which we live. You have told us that when it prospers, we too will prosper. So, Lord, we ask you for the peace and well-being of Muncie and Delaware County. O Lord, you've called us to build houses and to live in them, to plant gardens and to eat of their produce. You've called us to raise families, to increase and not to decrease. So, Lord, we pray for the increase and prosperity of our city and our county. O Lord, you've called us to pray for our leaders and for those who are in high positions, that we may lead peaceful and quiet lives that are honoring to you. So, Lord, we pray for all of our leaders in city and county government and education, the marketplace, faith communities, and public service. We pray that you would give them wisdom, integrity, and courage. And, oh Lord, you've told us that if we humble ourselves and pray, seeking your face and turning from unrighteous ways, you will hear us, forgive us, and heal our land. So, Lord, we confess to you that not all of our actions are consistent with integrity. And we ask for your forgiveness and mercy. And finally, Lord, we pray that this gathering today may in some small way be used by you to contribute to mutual understanding, to honesty, integrity, compassion, and peace. Lift off of us today any spirit of complacency, discouragement, or mediocrity. And may we be enlivened by your good spirit and imbued with a sense of hope. It is in your name that we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Draper. Welcome, everybody. What a beautiful day for everybody to be coming together at the close of the July. You know, if you look at what's happening here today and heading into this weekend, this is going to be a very special weekend in Muncie with the Indiana Black Expo Muncie chapter and the Muncie Homecoming. We're going to have thousands of people coming into the city of Muncie and celebrating a great big homecoming reunion. You know, just last weekend we got to celebrate the Community Bike Fest weekend, and we had thousands of people coming in for it. The weekend before it, we had over 5,000 people coming into the city of Muncie for the Ironman competition out at Prairie Creek Reservoir. Those types of things are very, very, very important. And so, Latasha, thank you so much for everything that you're doing in leading the Muncie chapter of the Indiana Black Expo, and Joe Anderson for your leadership as the president of the NAACP here. Your leadership in bringing people together is so important for our community. Thank you so much. And it's great to see young children here. I've got 3 of my grandchildren here today. They can't wait to get out of here and head to Tui Pool. So I wonder why. School's just around the corner, right? But, you know, there are some very special people here today that I think that we ought to recognize, and I'm not trying to take any recognitions away from anybody else, but I've already mentioned President Griffin and President Joe Anderson. Yesterday, I had the great opportunity to meet the new superintendent of Muncie Community Schools, Leanne Kwiatkowski, and I believe that she came in earlier. And if you could please stand up and wave and say hi. I know she's going to be doing some public forums and talking to neighborhood association presidents and neighborhood associations and going throughout the community to get to greet people. And I see members of the Muncie Community School Board back there, Jim Williams and others, and I believe you've hit a home run. The 60 minutes that I got to spend with her yesterday was very enlightening and helpful to me as mayor to understand Muncie Community Schools' visions for the future, and I think that we're in a very, very good place with our schools. So, another person I'd like to recognize that's here today that's agreed to go for a bike ride with myself and some other people is President Jeff Mearns is here, representing Ball State. Yeah. I hope you have a chance to grab the Muncie Stories Hometown Muncie Homecoming Festival and a chance to see that. That's extremely informational on what an important weekend this is. And before I sit down, I do want to recognize somebody else that I didn't see come in, and that is Jeff Scott, the Chancellor of Ivy Tech. Jeff is here somewhere as well. Hi, Jeff. How are you? Thank you for being here. This is Wednesday. Tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, is the first Thursday of August. There's fantastic programs going on downtown, Muncie tomorrow, leading into the Muncie Homecoming Festivals that'll be going on the rest of the weekend. And tomorrow is Ivy Tech Day in the city of Muncie. So get downtown and celebrate and have a great time. Thank you all so much for being here. Latasha's got a great program set up for everybody. You'll be greatly entertained, and you'll also learn a lot on how important it is to be working together as a community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Draper and Mayor Tyler. You make a great MC. You did a great job. So there were several people that I needed to also introduce, but he did some of those, Dr. Kwiatkowski and President Mearns and President Scott. So thank you for doing that. We also have some elected officials who are here this afternoon, and we would like for you to stand and wave so that people can see you, and thank you for the service that you give to our community. Are there any elected officials that are here? Yes. Thank you. And if there are any people who are running for office, if you would stand and wave and let people know that you're here. Oh, yeah. Yes, good. Very good. Thank you. We also have some officials that are here from Indiana Black Expo, the state office, and state officials that are here are Marilyn Gorey, who is the regional vice chair. Thank you for being here today. We also have Mr. Arvis Dawson, who is the chapter liaison, who will be bringing greetings in just a moment. There's a lot of work that goes into a luncheon like this, and it can't be done by one person. We have the Muncie Black Expo team and the Muncie Homecoming teams, those two committees. If you serve on either one of those committees, can you stand so that we can recognize the hard work that you have done to prepare for this weekend? Come on, you've worked very hard. This is day one of how many days? 5 days? 6 days? 6? This is day one, and look at it. Look what's happening already. I can feel it. It's just exciting. We also want to thank especially 3 people that work behind the scenes to help get done, and they are Angelia Gordon, Yvonne Thompson, and Jared Quarles. Stand up and be recognized. I know you hate doing that. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Now we would like to ask Mr. Arvis Dawson, who is the chapter liaison, to come and bring greetings on behalf of the state.
Thank you and good morning. My name is Arvis Dawson. As she mentioned, I'm chapter liaison for Indiana Black Expo, and I bring you greetings on behalf of Tanya Bell, who is our CEO, and Greg Wilson, who is chairman of the board. I actually live in Elkhart, Indiana, so I got up this morning coming down here, just thinking about coming down here all day. And I want you to tell you that now that I'm here, I'm excited. This is awesome. You know, I kind of do the rubber chicken circuit throughout the state. And so I do a lot of these, but this is awesome. I want to thank Watasha for the fine job she does with Indiana Black Expo. And actually, she took some kids down last week to leadership training. She's the president. She does everything else, you know, on behalf of the chapter, so we're excited to have her on board. Also want to encourage you to attend our Circle City Classic, which is coming up September 27th and 28th. We have Kentucky State playing Jackson State. It's a great event, great college tour for the kids, so if they want to come, they can get enrolled or get to talk to some of the college counselors that we have there as well. And next year, more importantly, we will be celebrating our 50th anniversary of Indiana Black Expo. And that's a milestone for us, and the Muncie chapter has been around probably, I know as long as I have, been involved in the Black Expo. We have 12 chapters throughout the state, and it's always a pleasure to be in the forefront. We want to provide those opportunities to our youth, to our elderly, and to our community. The Muncie Days thing, I'm excited to see that. I was looking at all the activity. That's a lot of activities packed into 5 days. So you guys are going to have looks like a bang-up good time. But I want to encourage you, if you're not a member of the Muncie chapter of Indiana Black Expo, to become a member. They are a shining star among our 12 chapters, as proven by this luncheon. They touch a lot of lives, and that's what we do. We want to be an advocate for the African American community. So again, on behalf of Indiana Black Expo, I want to say thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, well, let's take a moment, if you wouldn't mind, a moment of silence before we begin our lunch. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch, and we'll be back in a few moments. Thank you to all of you who are getting iced teas and waters and lemonade for the seniors in our room. That's very much appreciated, that they didn't have to get up and go get drinks for themselves. Thank you for doing that. While you are getting yourselves settled, I want to give you some information about what's happening the rest of the week. Later today, there at the Horizon Convention Center is a community resource fair. So if you have time between the hours of 2 and 6 p.m. this afternoon, please stop by the Horizon Convention Center. There are about 50 vendors there to greet you and give you information. I think there's a health fair over there too. Bring your children over there and enjoy what's happening this afternoon. Tomorrow night, Thursday at Cannon Commons at 6 o'clock, there's a rhythm and blues concert. Is it Greg Rollins? Michael Rollins. He's a Muncie native. How many of you know him? Well, you should be there then. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock. He's coming home to play at Cannon Commons at 6 o'clock. On Friday, there's a golf outing, a golf scramble that begins at noon at Crestview Golf Course. Many of you are already signed up. Thank you for that. In addition to that, we've got a Silver Sneakers program, and those of you who are Silver Sneakers, you know who you are. And that's from 11 to 1 at the Bewley Center. Please come out and get the services that they have provided for you. It's going to be a fun morning from 11 to 1. Later that day at Motivate Our Minds, they're having their annual block party. And if you haven't been to a Motivate Our Minds block party, you're missing out. So come out on Friday afternoon from 4:30 to 6:30. Meet the kids. They'll probably have ice cream and all kinds of other fun things. That's on Friday. Then on Saturday at 11 o'clock a.m., starting at the Debonair Club, is the annual parade. So please come and enjoy the parade, or be in the parade at 11 o'clock, and that parade goes from the Debonair Club to McCullough Park, which is where the Muncie Homecoming Festival occurs. If you have not seen the Muncie Homecoming festival at McCullough Park. I can't even explain it. I can't even explain it. So if you don't plan to go to the park, promise me you'll drive down Martin Luther King Boulevard so that you can just see what it looks like. There's nothing like being around family and friends and fun and love and music and food for a couple of thousand people. That's one time that I see 2,000 or 3,000 people. Am I right? For those of you who've been there, at McCullough Park, tents everywhere, happiness everywhere. You just have to experience it for yourself. It's beautiful. That evening, on Saturday evening, is the black and white, is that the black and white party? Yes, the black and white party from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. at the Horizon Convention Center. That is a free event. I have my black and white dress. I hope you have yours, or something black and white that you will be wearing on Saturday. Come out and meet some new folks. There's new people that you need to meet. So come out on Saturday night and have fun at the black and white party. Then on Sunday at 12:30 is the Gospel Extravaganza, and that is hosted by Christ Temple Church. So we want to come out and support them at 12:30 at McCullough Park. Now the good news is that I'm sure you didn't remember all that I just shared with you. The Muncie Homecoming Festival Committee has made copies of this document, and it's sitting over at that table. So as you leave, you can either take advantage of one of the papers, or you can go to their Facebook page, which is, what is it? MHF 2019 Facebook page, and all of the events are listed there one by one. Please come out and support this committee. I know you will, because it's going to be a beautiful weekend. No rain, can you believe it? No rain on a Saturday. When was the last time we had no rain on a Saturday? Thank you, God. 2,000 people, that would not be a good thing to have rain. So we are now ready to hear from our speaker, and we're going to invite Dr. Draper back to the podium to introduce our amazing speaker today.
Friends, it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce to you today one of Muncie's finest. Dr. Gregory Howard Williams has served as a university president, professor, lawyer, fund developer, corporate partner, author, speaker, athletic director, and national leader on racial and ethnic diversity. If I read to you all of his accomplishments, we would be here all afternoon and you would not get to hear from him. So I will just sum it up by saying that he has 6 earned degrees and 6 honorary degrees, including a PhD, the Juris Doctor, the MBA. He's been the president of the University of Cincinnati, the president of the City College of New York, and dean of the Ohio State University School of Law. Go Buckeyes. I.O. Perhaps, though, more important than any of these accomplishments, I would suggest to us today is Dr. Williams' book, Life on the Color Line, which is a seminal text widely regarded, that's right, a seminal text widely regarded as one of the most important and insightful memoirs on racial identity in the United States, used all over the country. As Dr. Williams tells his own story of growing up on both sides of what W.E.B. Du Bois called the problem of the color line, he expertly calls into question the categories we use to designate each other. He uses his own life experience in the segregated Muncie of the 1950s to demonstrate to us that terms like white and black can never truly capture the breadth of our identities. And yet at the same time, as categories of social control in a world formed by racism and white supremacy, black and white are very consequential designations indeed. Designations that Dr. Williams calls us to think critically about as we join together with one another across the color line to work against racism, white supremacy, nationalism, and all of the structures that positions some as us and others as them. When my family and I moved to Muncie 15 years ago and read Life on the Color Line, we drove and walked around Muncie to see the spots, the sights. Learned from so many people who knew Dr. Williams or his father or Miss Dora. In fact, I brought my copy of the book for signing today. And here in Muncie, we have the double legacy of both the honor and the sadness that this story took place here. And I want to, before we bring him to the podium, simply read the last paragraph of this text as a picture of his life experiences and how it connects with our life experiences here today. And Dr. Williams says this: I was fortunate to be able to achieve my goal of becoming a lawyer and later my dream of being a law professor. I have held positions that even in my wildest fantasies during the nights at 601 and a half Railroad Street I could not envision for myself. Yet when I stand in front of my students, my mind often wanders back to the pain and rejection of the Muncie years. Almost as if it were yesterday, I vividly recall watching Dad being beaten by the police and the day we were chased from the white waiting room in Louisville. I never felt more impotent and powerless to control my life than I did in those days. When I think of those times, I remember what Dad used to say: "Son, one day this will all pale into insignificance." He was wrong. Muncie has never paled into insignificance. It has lived inside me forever. And so it is my honor to introduce to some and present to others today our speaker, Dr. Gregory Howard Williams.
Well, you know, sometimes they say you can't come home again. We put a lie to that, didn't we? It is great to be here with you, to see all of you out there and that look around the room and see all those faces of friends and companions and folks that are with me and walked the journey, and we spent time together and forged a life that we didn't know much about or how to forge, but we were all able to move forward. I'm just blown away by the crowd we have here today, and I'm just delighted that you're all here and to hear me. And I see people, like I said, who I recognize and are so important to me. And one in particular that I do want to call out is my good friend Hurley Goodall. So let's give Hurley a round of applause. Hurley was there helping me build the dream that I had many years ago, and I remember he was in the fire department and I was working as a deputy sheriff. I was trying to work my way through Ball State working full-time as a deputy sheriff while being also a full-time student. Actually, I remember once the sheriff's department was giving me an award, and so they had on the award, "Congratulations for your part-time work as a deputy sheriff." I said, "No, I'm not taking that. It was not part-time." It was full-time that I was doing it, and the chance to be able to go to Ball State and get my degree, and I'm very pleased about that. It's so good to see President Mearns, and thank you for coming, President. I appreciate you being here. So, and actually, as the mayor and I were talking, we didn't realize how close we were in terms of, well, we knew how close we were in terms of age, but which I won't go any more into that at all. But he was at Muncie Central the same time I was at Muncie Central. He was graduated in 1960. I graduated in 1962. The only disappointment I had, he does not remember me playing on the basketball or football team. Thank you very much. He remembers Ron Bonham, who unfortunately passed away recently. And actually, during my time as president of the University of Cincinnati, The championship teams, the 62 team and the 63 team, they would always get together, and they had always invited the president. And Ron came down a couple times, and it was really great to spend some time with him. Of course, I was teasing him as we came down. I said to the assembled crowd, I said, well, I always loved playing with Ron, but you know, when you passed him the ball, you know you weren't getting it back. But he is a great, great person and a good friend of mine, and I definitely miss him, and I know many do here in Muncie miss him as well. So I'm really thrilled to be here and coming back, an opportunity to speak and be with all of you and see the great things that have happened in Muncie, and I'm very pleased about that. Coming back to Muncie always evokes for me memories of my dad, and many of you knew him, and so I hope you'll indulge me as I say a few things about him. For the uninitiated, he was actually, I guess, Buster Williams was really kind of Muncie's local raconteur. He would stand on the street corners, drawing the crowds of kids, the young teenagers, young adults, and actually what he always liked to do is to approach them and challenge them to see whether or not they could figure out his 3-card Monte trick or hide the pea under the shells, the shell game. So this was original for him, and he always used to like to call it a game of chance. But when you were playing the shell game with Buster Williams, there was no chance because he knew how to hide the pea. And it was remarkable, but I do remember him so much, actually. He provided a lot of humor in a time in which there wasn't a lot of humor in my life. Once I remember when John Kennedy came to town in the 1960 presidential election. So he was here, and we were all, thousands of us were standing in front of the old courthouse steps, looking at Kennedy, hearing what he had to say. And I'm in the back, way in the back of the crowd. I was just a high school student at the time. And all of a sudden, I see this familiar figure come across the steps of the courthouse and come up and kiss the future president, John F. Kennedy. And then I realized that was my dad. He had leaned over, he'd sneaked up there, leaned over, kissed Kennedy. And then he disappeared. Actually, and after that, I didn't see him for a week. So I wondered what in the world happened to him. Apparently, after leaving the stage, he approached a couple of Muncie police officers and said, I just kissed the next president of the United States. Give me a ride home. And they said, Buster, we've got a home for you. Get in the car. So he spent a week in the Delaware County Jail, where I later worked, working off his public intoxication charge. Now, some of you may wonder why I'm saying this, why I'm talking so much about my dad, and particularly those stories which are, hilarious. Well, the last time I spoke in Muncie actually was right here in this room. It was when Mayor Cannon, one of your predecessors, had declared it Dr. Gregory Howard Williams Day. We had students who had read my book and wrote essays on it. Some of them really great essays. And I remember there was a lovely young woman who got up and serenaded me, sang just an absolutely beautiful song. And I got up and made a few comments after the event was drawing to a close. And then after the event, I had one of my boyhood friends come up to me and says, Greg, you're an okay speaker, but you're not as good as your dad. So this is 30 years later. My speaking ability in Muncie is still judged by, am I as good as my dad? So hopefully you'll decide today whether I am or not. Consequently, when Jared called me and George called to ask me to speak, I was a little nervous about that because are they going to be there judging me again by that standard? Well, that's fine. I asked them what they wanted me to talk about. And they said they want to talk about the effect of Muncie on me. And of course, you've had a little exposure to my book. Some of you may have read it. And of course, as an introduction, we just had. Anyone who's read my book knows that the impact on me, of Muncie on me, has been profound. It's been just absolutely amazing, enormous, and continuing. It's always been part of my life, and that's what I tried to, when I wrote the book, what I was trying to do was to tell the story of what it was like to be a young mixed-race boy trying to grow up in Muncie in a place that was really not welcoming for us when we first arrived. When we first arrived at the bus station just 3 blocks from here, there was not a welcoming crowd for us. People did not want to see us. And so that's one of the reasons why I was surprised when the book came out how successful it was. I didn't realize that it was going to be that successful. I got the Los Angeles Times Prize for Book of the Year in 1995. Thank you. I was amazed when the Cleveland Plain Dealer said the book was heartbreaking and uplifting and called it a searing book about race and prejudice in America and brings insight that only someone who has lived on both sides of the racial color line could do. And then I did a tremendous travel. They had the book was so successful. The first year when the book came out, the hardcover came out, they had me on a 5-city tour. That first tour was so successful, the next year they brought the paperback book out and they had me on a 20-city tour around the country. I went from New York to Miami, from Atlanta to Chicago, Kansas City to Detroit, from Washington, D.C. to Seattle, Washington, from Harlem to Watts. What was really interesting about this was the turnouts. I just couldn't believe it. For instance, I remember being in Seattle on a Monday afternoon at 5 o'clock giving a book reading and thinking, who in the world knows Greg Williams and is going to turn up here in Seattle at 5 o'clock on a Monday? Well, we had 75 people that showed up, and 3 of them for Muncie. So I've often wondered why was the book so successful, and I'm not one to question my success. Obviously, a lot of people have written stories about overcoming adversity and poverty and trying to move forward in their lives, but obviously the issue of race and trying to negotiate that, particularly which I had to do at the age of 10, I think got a lot of attention and hit a lot of people. I've received, and I'm not trying to brag about this, I received several thousand letters from people across the country who, after reading my book, felt I was the shoulder on which they could lean to unburden themselves of the trauma and difficulties they have in their own lives. And it was just absolutely amazing. It was not uncommon for me to get a 7 to 10 page handwritten tear-stained letter when people were trying to unburden themselves of their own trauma that they'd lived with in their lives. And I did, I'm pleased to say, I responded to every letter. Not with 7 pages, but I did respond to every letter. Well, actually, not every letter. I didn't respond to the hate mail. And I did get some hate mail on this. And what really worried me more than anything about the hate mail is often the writers would put their return address on there. So that really made me very nervous about that. We came to Muncie when I was 10 years old. Our family had disintegrated in Washington, D.C., right outside of Washington, and I remember very, very much the overnight ride from Washington, D.C. to Muncie, Indiana. You can imagine I was 10 years old, my brother Mike was 8. We were in a very desperate situation in Virginia. And we got on the bus with the hope that something was going to turn out better for us, that we were going to be able to do something or have some support somewhere. And I remember during that long night as we were trying to sleep, my dad was talking in the background, and I could hardly remember, but I remember he said, well, Mom's gone. She's got the babies. They're with her. I don't know if we'll ever see them again. We've lost everything. We have nothing. White is black. Miss Sally is really Grandma Sally. And in Virginia, you were white boys. In Indiana, you're going to be colored boys. And your life is going to change forever. My dad actually was a prophet in that regard because it did change. And I'm not going to go through all that today. You can get the book, and if you don't have the book, I've got it for sale over here. So I'm not going to go through that. But what I wanted to do, and I decided that I wanted to share with you, is, and really what I did in the book, my feeling as to why people like the book so much. It's not about Greg Williams. It's about what I said about the people who helped me when I needed it most.
Yes.
Who were my friends when it was not easy to be a friend of Greg Williams. That was really my book. And if people tell me they like the book, that means they like the people that were close to me and part of my life and tried to make a difference in my life. And so I take great pleasure in that. And so today what I want to do, I want to talk about some of those everyday, ordinary people who inspired me, who motivated me, who guided me, who applauded the tenacity and perseverance that I exhibited as I struggled through one of the roughest patches of my life. At a time that I was not, as William Henley says in his poem, Invictus, I was not master of my fate or captain of my soul. My dad used to cite Invictus on the street corners when he would walk through Muncie and talk about defiantly that he was master of his fate and captain of his soul. Unfortunately, he was not. He was an alcoholic. He had succumbed to alcoholism. He had his fate decided by alcoholism. Fortunately, towards the end of his life, he did sober up, and he really lived the dream of every alcoholic. He died sober, but it was too late for me and Mike in many respects. Nonetheless, despite his daily battle with the bottle, my dad did inspire and he did motivate me. Almost daily, he drummed into my consciousness that I needed to have as much education as possible. That's why I've got 12 degrees. I'm a little bit of an overachiever. He inspired me. He drummed into my conscience that I needed to move forward. And he even said to me, you can be whatever you wanted to be. And that was hard for me to believe because I was standing next to my dad who was drunk, wearing clothes that we got from a rummage sale pants, rummage sale shirt, and holes in my shoes. And to listen to this man telling me I can be whatever I want to be, I couldn't believe it. But he did say to me, he said, you can be whatever you want to be. He said, you can even be president if you want to be. Now, I thought he didn't know what he was talking about, but he was, in many respects, a prophet. And for 11 years, I did wear the silk robe of a university president. I wore the gold medallion, the rakish tam hat, and had all the accoutrements of a university president. And I remember standing there at graduation at the University of Cincinnati and say, Dad said this was possible.
Yes.
And that's what happened. He inspired me, helped me stay the course many times when I was ready to give up. I had the good fortune to meet presidents and vice presidents, senators, congressmen, ambassadors, and travel the world and be involved in places and walk into rooms that I could never dream about when I was a kid growing up here in Muncie. And so he helped me understand that there was a possibility for me, however faint that might be. When we arrived in Muncie, we lived with our grandmother, whose name has already been mentioned, Sally Williams. She lived at 601.5 Railroad Street in an alley right off Monroe Street, right at the railroad. Actually, I understood after my book came out, Ball State had a course, the geography of Greg Williams, where they had a little van that would go around to the places that I lived or I talked about in the book. And I said, God, who would have ever thought that would have happened? But we lived there. She had rented a 3-room tar paper shack. She cooked on an electric hot plate, fed a pot-bellied stove with coal, sticks, and cast-off wood. And my brother Mike and I, she had a commode, and my brother Mike and I slept in the room together where there was a commode, had slept on an army cot. He slept at one end, I slept at the other. And of course, now both of us over 6'2", so that would have been a little hard these days, but we did that when we were 10 and 8 years old. Sometimes that shack seemed like the after-hours spot, after Bob's Tavern closed down, or other places where my dad was, and everybody gathered in that shack, drinking, gambling, arguing, and of course, fighting as well. Many people saw that situation, but only one tried to do something about it. And that was Sister Dora Weekly Terry, a devout and loyal member of Bishop Oscar Sanders Christ Temple Church. She was a longtime family friend, and she would walk by 601.5 Railroad Street from Upper Charles Street, where she worked for this family every day with a few remains of food from the family's table, and share that with us. And she was just so distraught about what she saw and what our living conditions were. And one time she told me, later years, she told me that one afternoon she walked by, and I was still about 10 and my brother Mike was 8. She walked by there, 601.5, looked in on the gate, and there my dad and grandmother were passed out drunk, and my brother Mike and I were just sitting there waiting for them to wake up. And she said, "No, this cannot happen." She took us home with her, and we lived with her. Now, think of this. She was a 52-year-old widow with an 8th grade education, making $25 a week. And even in those days, $25 was not enough to take care of a family. But she was willing to do all that she could to make sure that we had a safe place to live, that we were out of the gambling, the fighting, the drinking, the carryings on there. And I thank God every day and every night that she was willing to walk with us hand in hand. And my heart lightened as I realized this woman, who was not required to do this, made our burden her burden. And you can imagine what a relief that is for a 10-year-old boy to know you don't have to carry this burden alone. Although there were many others that I could recognize, and today, I could go through, there's a lot of people in this room who really reached out and helped me. My cousin Virginia Hayes Cox reminded me recently that her mother, my Aunt Elizabeth, would hold Sunday dinner until Mike and I were able to arrive, and we would race from Crosstown to Whiteley to get the chicken noodles Aunt Elizabeth made, the freshly baked rolls, and the chocolate cake, which is emblazoned forever in my memory. There are others as well. Francis Hudson would send me money to Camp Flat Rock so that I would not be the only boy at Flat Rock who didn't receive anything from home. My buddies Brian Settles, Ronnie Hill, Carl Brown, unfortunately, who recently died about a month ago. We all shared together. We shared everything that we had. I could talk about many others. There's other folks that stood up for me, stood with us, and made a difference in our lives, and I'm truly appreciative for that. I would not be where I am today if they hadn't. And I learned long before Hillary Clinton said it takes a village to raise a child. And so I was raised by this village in Muncie, and I appreciate that. I could talk about others, but I want to talk about the person who had the most influence in my life. That is Sarah Whitney Williams. Sarah and I met in Study Hall 306 at Muncie Central High School. I was a senior getting ready to graduate, and she was a junior. And we ended up in Study Hall. And actually, when I remember walking into the Study Hall, and George Punzelt, who was my football coach, and I was the quarterback on the Muncie Central team, he said, and he always liked to call me that for some reason. I think he said, it's kind of Russian and it evokes power and authority, which I certainly did not feel when I was in Muncie, power or authority. Never felt that in my life. It took me a long time to grow into it, but I did. But I remember George said to me, he said, "Well, Greg, you take care of the front of the study hall, I'll take care of the back." And it was one of the few times in my life I was glad that W came at the end of the alphabet. because that put me right behind Sarah Whitney, a lovely, one of the most beautiful girls in Muncie Central High School, warm and friendly, friendly to everyone. As Dad counseled me over the years, he said, you got to be prepared to take care of every opportunity that presents itself. Now, I think he was talking about business and school and other things like that. But I looked at Sarah and said, I'm thinking something else here. Over the course of the semester, we began talking to each other. And as our attraction blossomed, it was very unwelcome by virtually every one of our white classmates. They did not want to see it. And frankly, even some in the black community felt that I should not be talking to this white girl. And they were very vocal about it. Not to me, because by this time when I was high school, I had learned to survive on the no-holds-barred playgrounds of Muncie. But to her, it really made a difference. In fact, she had to walk through situations where people would spit on her as she walked the halls because she was dating me. And in fact, some of my classmates would call her family in the middle of the night, said, "Do you know your daughter's dating a colored boy?" And of course, they weren't that nice when they called and said that. Obviously, that had a relationship and ended our relationship in those days. Later, we were both strong enough to stand up to our detractors, even though we were still not a welcome vision for many people. Once even Sarah's own Grandmother Whitney, said, "Sarah, if you marry him, you're going to end up in Harlem." Well, actually, Grandma was a prophet, because Sarah did end up in Harlem. She ended up in Harlem as the wife of the 11th president of the City College of New York. At a time, I was also listed among the top 25 most influential people in Harlem, and she was the first lady of City College. When we married, many said our marriage would be lucky to survive 6 weeks, maybe 6 months at best. And I'm pleased to tell you that next month, August 27th, we will have been married 50 years. My life and our lives have been truly blessed. Dad and Miss Dora and others planted the seed. And I've been able to go and do things that I never thought that I would be able to do, and go places that I never thought I would be invited, and to be part of something incredibly special. We have 4 wonderful children, 2 biological children and 2 adopted children. The 2 adopted children are twin brothers from Honduras, a dangerous place. In fact, those who know geography knows Honduras has more murders as a country than any other country in the world. And we were able to pull 2 boys out of a little forsaken orphanage in Honduras and give them a home. I've got to admit, I was reluctant to do that. The older kids were getting ready to go to college, and Sarah said, "Well, let's do this again." And I said, "I really don't want to. We've got through this. We got lucky on the first set of kids. I mean, why roll the dice again and think you're going to get lucky twice?" When we were growing up, my nickname was Billy, and so she knew the way to get to me. She came back after a summer in Honduras where she was practicing her Spanish and getting her master's degree in Spanish, and she said, "I found Billy and Mike." And she said, "You don't have to adopt them, but I want you to go to Honduras with me and to meet them. And if you decide you don't want to adopt them after that, fine." Well, come on. And then I was thinking about, look, Miss Dora took us in when she was making $25 a week. Here I'm making salary well into 6 figures. Education, I couldn't get more education than that. I said, I've got to do this. I've got to provide a home for these boys. And we did it. It was not easy. I don't know. They live in an orphanage for 6 years, and unfortunately, you don't live in an orphanage for 6 years unless you're carrying some kind of baggage. And the boys were carrying a lot of baggage. and we had to work through that. But again, I remember Miss Dora, who really was working with us, understood the pain and suffering that we had gone through, understood what we were trying to do with our lives, and really stood behind us all the way. And so we did that. Today I'm pleased to say that the kids are doing great. My daughter Natalia Dora, and I did name her after. Actually, I could have given Miss Dora $1 million, and she would not be as pleased as she was the morning I called her and said, Natalia Dora Williams is in the world. She just absolutely loved that. My daughter, Natalia Dora, has been a lawyer for over a decade. She works in legal services, helping low-income, poverty-stricken families, just like her dad's, and helping women in distress. My son, Zach, has received his MBA from Duke University. Actually, he majored in theater Oberlin and tried to be an actor for a while, but decided to take a different path. He got his MBA from Duke. He is now finishing up his PhD from Hampton University. And Hampton, you may know, is a historically black college university, one of the best in the country. He's an inspiring and a masterful teacher. He loves what he's doing. People love him. Of the twins, our oldest twin, by 2 minutes, is a youth counselor at what's a place called Children's Village in New York. They have approximately 1,500 foster kids in the New York area who are in trouble, and families are not available to them. Their parents are in jail or on drugs. My son Tony has been doing this for 3 years. People rave about him. Actually, one little story about him. Actually, I recently heard that the head of the agency, and they have about maybe 1,500 employees, and the head of the agency was asked, who do you think could take your place? Now, Tony is just a high school graduate. Who could take your place when you decide to leave? And he said, the only one that I can think of is Tony Williams. I remember when I was adopting Tony, and we were sitting in Honduras. We were walking in the street in Honduras. Actually, I just had to jerk him back out of the street because we were getting ready to step in front of a car. He wasn't too happy with me at the time. I said, Tony, what do you want to be? And of course, asking an 8-year-old what they want to be, what are you going to get there? But he understood what I said, and he said, Jefe de todo, chief of everything. So after I heard about what the head of the agency said about Tony, I said, Tony, you have a chance to be the Jefe, but you're not going to be the Jefe unless you have a college degree. He has now completed his first year. He has a 3.75 grade point average at a car. And I'm talking with Tony Williams about psychology, something I've never thought we would do in our lives. And so he is making a difference every day. Our son Carlos, who also grew up in the orphanage there in the first formative years of their lives, he became a cook. And I was trying to figure that out. And I thought, well, maybe it's been because over the years I've told him how hungry I was in Muncie. So he loves cooking, he loves preparing food for folks, and it's an opportunity that he has enjoyed so much. We have certainly been blessed as a family, but we continue, like all families, to face challenges. Most seriously, our beloved Mama Sarah has developed Alzheimer's about a decade ago. And I am pleased that thus far she remains stable, and the doctor says that is totally unusual that Alzheimer's patients remain stable, but she has. She still has that beautiful smile that years ago captured my heart at Muncie Central and also guided our children through their early lives. And we hope God will let her live long enough to continue to enjoy her grandchildren and be part of their lives. 2 decades ago, we established a scholarship at Ball State in the name of my father, James Anthony Buster Williams, and my truly mother, Dora Weekly Terry. The scholarship is directed to students right here in this community, the community where I walked through, and I remember walking past this building many years often on my way to Ball State, walking in the morning because I did not have money to take the bus. Hopeful in that scholarship that it changes the circumstances in people's lives and those who really need help to be able to move forward. 2 years ago, we established a scholarship in Sarah's name at Mercy College of New York, where my son teaches and I serve on the board of trustees. The scholarship is in Sarah's name, and it's for women who are pursuing a business degree so they can make changes in their lives and consequently make changes in the lives of their family. And we're so pleased about that, and Sarah was so honored that we were able to do that. My life has been truly blessed. I could not have done it alone. I did not do it alone. People stood with me. And my life is very different than I believed it would be when some 50 years ago we stepped off that bus, the ABC bus lines at the bus station here in Muncie, and began to walk down the railroad tracks to 601.5 Railroad Street to begin part 2 of our lives. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
We don't even need to say anything after your remarks. Thank you, Dr. Williams. Let's give him another hand. You know, one of the things that you shared with us is that you didn't have money to ride the bus to Ball State. I know that now, in this era, someone thought enough of our students that students now can ride the bus for free to school. There's a lot of takeaways that we got. How many of you have read Dr. Williams' book? I read it about 15 years ago in one night. It was so captivating, and I didn't know Dr. Williams at the time. So if you have not had an opportunity to read the memoir, to read his book, please make sure you purchase one or order it on Amazon or find a way to listen to it in your car. It will change your life.
We have books here.
And there are books here. Yes, there are books here. So don't leave without a book. You need to make sure you have a book. So he said to us, you can be whatever you want to be. I want you to look at someone at your table and you say that to them. You can be whatever you want to be. You can be whatever you want to be. Yes. Whatever you want to be. And he is a living example of that. And while you're doing that and getting ready to be whatever you want to be, you need to be a Miss Dora. Everybody has something in them that they can give to someone else. Find a way to be a Miss Dora to someone this week. Don't wait till 2020. Oh, I'll be a Miss Dora in 2020. Today, this week, find someone to be a Miss Dora. I bet everyone here has a Miss Dora story somewhere. I know I do. You never know what little bit you can do, how it can change your life. You see what it's done for our speaker and from our hometown man. So let's do that, Muncie. Let's do that for each other. Let's do that for our young people. Let's do that for our seniors. We don't have to have 12 degrees. We don't have to have 12 degrees to do that. We don't have to have $25 to do that. We just have to have a heart for people. So let's try to do that, okay, folks? Let's try to do that. Moving on in our program, we have our illustrious chair and president of our Muncie chapter of Indiana Black Expo, Ms. Watasha Barnes-Griffin, to give the President and Volunteer Citizenship Awards.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Again, thank you, Dr. Williams, for accepting our invitation. It is an honor to have you here. And I do remember reading your book years ago as a teenager, and it was just exciting to be able to really know people that were in that book that I see every day. And so one that sticks out is Mamie Barker. I don't know if you remember Mamie Barker, but she was a really good friend of our family. And so just reading those names and seeing all of that, it was just amazing. So thank you.
Thank you.
And so thank you all for being here. I will not hold your time too much longer, but we always like to present a few awards every year. And one of those awards is the President's Award. And so I have the honor to kind of look at our community and honor someone who has made an impact in my life as the president, but also in the life of our members and in the community. And so this year, we want to honor Mayor Dennis Tyler and Miss Vicki Tyler with our President's Award. So we can have, and I know the kids wanted to go swimming, but we were like, we need Vicki here. So I'm going to ask if you two will stand, and I'm going to ask Mr. George Foley to come out and help me to present this award. It is so huge. He's going to, well, he was coming there, but it is huge. And so we just honor you. You have really done a lot for Muncie Black Expo. You have been a supporter of us, and we just cannot say thank you enough. And we know that your tenure as mayor is wrapping up at the end of the year, and we cannot let this day go by without saying we thank you and we appreciate you both, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It is huge. So I want him to show this, please. George is the strong arm. He's going to pick up this award. It is.
Oh, that's why you got
That's why I needed his muscle award. Thank you, George.
Oh, my. Wow.
Yeah, so, I guess we can. I want to read it. And I don't know if I know he rides a bike and cycles. I don't know if he lifts weights, but no. Let me read it. The Indiana Black Expo Muncie chapter proudly presents Public Service Award to Mayor Dennis and Vicki Tyler in recognition of your public service to the city of Muncie. And so he has been our mayor, but she has been the first lady, and so she has to stand there and support him. And so we cannot acknowledge you for all the good you bring to Muncie. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll have some folks carry it out for you. Thank you, Miss Yvonne. And so our second award is we do a community volunteer award. And so we look at our community again and just someone who is always championing the community, the youth in our community, the families, just the work that Muncie Black Expo is doing in our community. And so this year is a special year for us because we are in our homecoming year. And so there's a committee of us that have worked to put together all the things that will happen over the week. And so one person who has been on our committee for years is no longer with us on today. And so we want to honor him. And so it's important to talk about the B. Moten Foster Community Service Award. And so I'm just going to read a little bit. Community leader and activist Beatrice B. Moten Foster was born in Selma, Alabama in 1937. She was active in the civil rights movement and later achieved many firsts for African American women in radio, television, and publishing. She married Dr. Foster, who became a professor at Ball State University, and they moved to Muncie to begin his tenure. Upon her arrival, she founded and owned the Muncie Times newspaper. She helped organize the Muncie Coalition of 100 Black Women, which is coming back, Indiana Black Expo Muncie chapter, the Juneteenth celebration, Muncie Black Expo's annual health fair, the Martin Luther King Dream Team, and many other noteworthy celebrations in service to her community of Muncie and the state of Indiana. And so today we honor B. Moten Foster.
Yes, yes.
And so I'm going to have Deanna Walker, who's our chair of our summer celebration, is going to hold that award. And so this year we are going to honor Mr. Jerome T. Johnson. He passed away earlier in July, and he has always been a part of our community and a part of our committee. And so his daughter, Crystal Johnson Stovall, is going to come up and accept this award on his behalf. And I want to read a little bit about Mr. Johnson. Thank you, Crystal. step out there and give it to you, but you have to come back here. Jerome T. Johnson Jr. was born on July 20th, 1952 in Muncie, Indiana, to Mr. and Mrs. Jerome T. Johnson Sr., whom we affectionately know as Flat Top and Miss Sissy. Jerome attended Muncie Community Schools where he excelled in basketball and football. He graduated from Muncie Central High School in 1970, and in true Bearcat fashion, his purple pride and friendships remained intact. Immediately following high school, he entered the workforce and was among the first African Americans to become a delivery driver for Pepsi. In 1973, Jerome married his high school sweetheart and the love of his life, Joanne McCain, and from that union, 3 children were born: Crystal, Jason, and Justin McCain Johnson. While working for Pepsi, Jerome received a call from Delco Battery, recruiting him to play basketball for the company team, and in turn, he was offered a job. However, his desire for financial security often led him to work several jobs. He worked alongside his father-in-law, John McCain Jr., as a foreman for McCain Construction Firm until the company disbanded. After many years of working, Jerome retired from Delco Battery in 1996. Jerome loved people. He was a member of Union Missionary Baptist Church, where he served on the hospitality ministry. He was a member of the Men of Debonair and a friend to all. He never met a stranger. He enjoyed music, was a great dancer, a self-proclaimed grill master, a comedian in his own right, and loved to ride the streets of his favorite city, Muncie, Indiana, and he often ended up on his island. His love for people in the Whiteley community provided Jerome the opportunity to be on the Back to Muncie Steering Committee multiple times, which later evolved into the Muncie Homecoming Festival. Jerome's love, support, and encouragement for his family and friends was consistent, strong, and undeniable. His presence will be sorely missed, but his spirit will live on in each person he impacted, and we honor him today. Thank you.
Knew and loved my dad. Before Marvel gave us Wakanda, God gave us Jerome Johnson. And for that, I'm incredibly grateful. One of the things that my parents always would tell us is that being from a small town is like being from a large family. And I feel that more of today than ever before. And so thank you guys for loving on us the way that you have. And we ask that you continue to keep us in your prayers. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So the mission of Indiana Black Expo is to be an effective voice and vehicle for the African American community and to bring pride to our culture and to our history and heritage, and we do that through unique youth and family programming all year round. And one of the things that we do are scholarships for high school seniors. And so this year and the last couple years, there is a committee of individual groups, which is Indiana Black Expo, Muncie Chapter, the Martin Luther King Dream Team, and NAACP. We all collaborated and came together to say, let's give a scholarship together to our kids. And so we have the I Have a Dream Community Collaborative Scholarship that we will be awarding today to 2 individuals. And so if you are a member of that collaborative scholarship committee, would you please come forward so we can have NAACP representatives, MLK Dream Team, want to represent, and then Muncie Black Expo. We have Angela McKillop and Tara Gudger that'll come and stand and read for us. But we want to honor, so one of you, somebody. Come on, Susan. So I'm going to have Miss Kalia Evans come forward and Miss Malaysia Bryant come forward. These are our 2 recipients.
Let me just say, I can't see anyone out there. I can only see this paper, so that may help me. I'm always grateful to be a part of this. I'm also always a little nervous, so please bear with me. I hope to do Miss Kalia justice. Kalia Evans graduated from Muncie Central High School in June 2019 with a 3.3 GPA and ranked number 90 in her class. She participated in Upward Bound Ivy Tech. Upward Bound works to give low-income students and potential first-generation students at Muncie Central High School the tools, resources, and guidance they need to succeed in high school and later as a potential first-generation college student. She was a member of Multicats and received the Shining Star Award. Her community service includes volunteering with Feed My Sheep, MLK Day events, Muncie Unity Center, NAACP, and youth and family programming with Muncie Black Expo, Inc. This fall, Kalia will attend Ball State University with plans to earn her bachelor's degree in social work and continue to obtain her MSW. Her career goal is to help place children in good homes with loving parents. When asked why she applied to the Community Collaborative Scholarship, her response was, "My father is in prison, my mother is raising 6 kids on her own with the help of us older kids. Even though I have a part-time job, I also have a twin sister who will be going to college in the fall, so we will need all the financial support we can get." Kalia credits Renee Wagner, Genevieve Clark, Miss Rhonda Ward, and Yolanda Taylor for pouring into her life. Kalia Evans is the daughter of Lavera and Ralph Evans.
Want to give you this, and then we will have your check and all that stuff. We'll send it to your school, okay? Thank you. So turn around, you want to shake the hands of all the folks that are with you. You want to say something?
Okay, I can do it. You can do it.
I just want to say thank you for this award.
You can stand there.
No, I don't know where it went. It's up here. It's right here.
Where are we at? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have the pleasure of presenting to Miss Malaysia Bryant, who is also a graduate of Muncie Central, and she carried a 3.8 GPA average. She was ranked 51 in her class. Miss Malaysia is a member of her National Honor Society. She participated on my varsity track team. Yay. She was also varsity volleyball, where she served as the team captain, and she was a mentor to the freshman students. Her community services include volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club of Muncie, For Girls by Girls, the NAACP, and the youth and family programming with the Muncie Black Expo. This fall, Malaysia will attend Ball State University, chirp, chirp, with plans to major in pre-dentistry. Her career goes hard to become, her goals, that's goals, not goals, goals, G-O-A-L-S. Her career goals are to become a dental hygienist and then on her own have a practice. She says she wants to be a productive member of society, and she wants to be able to give back to those that have influenced and assisted her in her athletic and academic endeavors. Malaysia Bryant is the daughter of Danielle Jefferson and Melvin Bryant. I will now read an excerpt from her required essay titled "Promoting Harmonious Relationships Within Diverse Groups." Racial tension is one of the major issues in the United States today. For many centuries, this has been a problem in the country, but more importantly, in the community where I live. Racial tension has caused racial strife and mistrust even amongst my peers. Before my junior year at Muncie Central, I was naive to racial issues. I wanted to believe that although the world around us was experiencing hate and crime and discord, my Muncie community would be exempt from these threats, and we would all get along. But racial divide does reside in my community, and it scares me. I want my friends to not be afraid of being pulled over by police. I don't want to be accused of wrongdoing because of the color of my skin. I begin to notice that my white peers oftentimes feel a sense of superiority based solely on the color of their skin and not because of their hard work. Why does being a black or brown person make me feel bad? I challenged myself to be more intentional and present, be an example to my peers, all peers. We are so different, but we are much more the same. It is time to work together in harmony, not black, not white, but all people. We need one another. Congratulations.
I would like to say thank you for being chosen for the scholarship because every penny matters.
Thank you so much. And so please know that scholarship that we do collectively every year, and so when we are sending out the applications, we send them to all county schools. We want everyone, we encourage everyone to apply and participate. And so we are just honored to have those two girls, Muncie Central graduates, woo woo, and Ball State in the fall. And so their checks and all their scholarship awards will go to their schools, and we will handle that accordingly. And so thank you, girls, for being here, and thank you, parents, because they cannot be who they are without you all. And you all. And so I simply do not want to delay the time, but I do want to bring up our Regional Vice Chair, Ms. Marilyn Goree, who will talk a little bit about the importance of a membership with Indiana Black Expo Muncie chapter. And once she is done, I promise you, I will let you leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Watasha. I could be up here for a long time when I'm doing membership packages, but I'm just going to keep you a little time. First of all, I want to call Tyra. Is she here? Yes, ma'am. Please come back up. First, before I begin to say something about the membership, we have a statewide conference in April, and each chapter has the opportunity to pick the Volunteer of the Year award. So let's give a round of applause for Tara because she was the one for this year. Come up here. I'm not going to bite you,
Okay.
see?
I know you're not. You're wonderful.
So I do have your plaque, but it's at home on my dresser. But it's so beautiful. It's glass. It's so awesome. But I'll bring it over here this weekend.
Thank you.
But I still want her to stay up here because you are the membership chair.
Yes.
Now you know what I'm going to ask, right?
How many people can I get to get a membership? Let's go.
3 words. I want you to repeat after me. Working together works.
Working together works.
Working together works.
Working together works.
So that means we have applications. The Muncie's chapter have application. It is very important to be involved in your community. The ones that came back home, you can get a membership too. You know, I know they don't mind your money going in the Muncie chapter because you see they gave scholarships. They're doing all this other stuff this weekend, and it takes a lot of money to do. We have 12 chapters. Each chapter have to do their own membership. And for that note right there, we are running a special. We're doing $15 for a membership.
That's a good deal.
So if I had a blue light, like in Kmart or Walmart or something, I'd put that on and come around to each table and get your checks. We take cash, we take your cards. I know they have the little chip slide thing that they can do. So please support the Muncie chapter in getting a membership. And then on that note, I know there's some organizations in here that has big bucks. For the small business membership, $250, and the corporate membership package, $1,000. Unfortunately, I can't take nothing off of that. So please support that, and I hope you all enjoy the Muncie 27 years. Give them a round of applause. And I'm glad to say that I am their Central Region Vice Chair of IBE. Watachu, me and Watachu, we talk 24 hours a day if she's on the plane, on the ground, wherever she's at. But I just want to say thank you, Watashi, and to your board today. This has been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful corporate luncheon. And don't forget your membership now. Now, because if I know you, I'm going to call you out, and I know some people in here. So, thank you.
Okay, before we send you on your way for your calendars, 2 additional dates to add. September the 20th is the annual banquet for the NAACP. If you were a part of the state convention last year and saw what they did, you want to be here this year for the banquet, which will be at the Horizon Convention Center. Also, since we're talking about homecoming, we want to remember Ball State University's homecoming, which is the week of October 14th, with the football game on October the 19th. So we want to put that on our calendars too as we work together, because working together works, right? So I'm going to pass this back to Ms. Watasha. Let's give her another hand for her hard work.
I will just say thank you for your support. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your love for the Muncie community. And we will see you for year 28. Thanks.